if we're just like trying to be fun and cool all the time, you're forgetting at the end of the day, you're a business around something. So I always say to people who want to do something like that is to really kind of rein it in and say, what is the focus of what you're trying to do? What are you trying to achieve here? Because I think sometimes what we're seeing is just a very tactical approach of kind of chasing this thing or that thing, but not seeing how it connects back to the whole. So for anyone who's trying to compete, sometimes steadiness is its own competition of saying, okay, I'm going to continue on this path.
Hey, welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. And today we get to pick the brain of PRIYA SHAH. She is a genius at B2B social media. And she's here today to talk to us about how do you show up for real in a sustainable way when you are a very busy founder. PRIYA, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. So PRIYA and I met through a business incubator that we're in, and we immediately hit it off with an offline conversation talking about authenticity in social media. So we had to bring that here onto the show. And PRIYA, I would just love for you to share with us, like, what are you seeing that's working right now for founders, especially if they are focused on selling to other businesses?
I think really what it comes down to is thinking about your own capacity. And so really it comes down to credibility, consistency, and clarity. Those 3 C's are my kind of go-to because I just feel like so often we're seeing everybody want to be everything all at once. And when you can hone in on those little bits, then I think, can really unlock the best of people and who they are and everything that they have to offer. And it's not kind of covered with all the fluff.
Talk to me about fluff. Like, what are you seeing right now that is fluffy / completely ineffective for an audience?
Yes, I think there is, or there at least has been in the last few years, this kind of shift over to being very, very performative. So trying to really show up in a way that makes it feel like you are something, not yourself. You are something that your audience wants. And so I'm seeing it consistently where either you're throwing it all into AI and saying, this is who I am, and I'm just going to regurgitate that. And so we are losing substance. Or we're seeing, I think, on the other side, fluff from the standpoint of nothing really, I would say, that is a little risque. People are saying in that safe zone. And so that differentiator is gone. So we are kind of seeing the same thing over and over and over again between the AI and just people just being a little bit scared to really show us who they are.
You know, I love that. I mean, a few years ago when I started doing a lot more online and social media, the thing I was hearing all the time was like, be vulnerable, be vulnerable. And there's that like performative vulnerability. I think like people will be like, oh, like this drama thing happened. And they would say it in a very dramatic way. But if you assess like what they're saying it's not a lot. Like it's not a lot that really comes through. So how can you tell, as a writer or a content creator, or even if you're just trying to find good examples out there, what are some
Sure.
tells that someone is being genuine, authentic, really real and vulnerable versus this performative thing? Like, are there any particular tells that somebody should like watch for?
I think sometimes it's hard because I always say, don't be beholden to the algorithm. The algorithm also controls what we see. So I think really it comes down to sometimes you have to do a little bit more of the legwork. So if you find people that are authentic, so you have read through their content, you've read a few posts and you can tell this person maybe doesn't post frequently or is doing it consistently, but not in a daily way. But I'm saying that whatever they're saying is really valuable. Make sure that you're going and checking out their posts so that it does tell the algorithm that you want to see it. But then I would say really being intentional of your own time. So when you click on them, stay, dwell, be able to tell the algorithm, I like this type of content. And I would say also look to see that there isn't specific kind of structure. So if you keep seeing the same thing over and over again, typically we don't have, it's that same concept of, your uncle doesn't die 12 times a year. There's a little bit of that inauthenticity when you're like, oh, why does this person always have the same problems or the same problem in 7 different ways? It's like, oh, well, they're just kind of plopping it into AI and then trying to regurgitate. But if you actually know this person as well, I think sometimes it's also take it offline. Make sure that you're starting to connect with these people in different ways, whether that be following somebody's podcast, if you really like their content, and, gaining a little bit more interest or finding other platforms that they're on. I think that is also another good indicator to say this person's genuine because I'm seeing quality content everywhere for that person. I just got a little taste on a LinkedIn.
So I'm going to be totally unprofessional and put you completely on the spot.
Sure.
I know that you checked my show out. So do you have any pointers of like, what are we doing well? What could I be doing differently when you saw my stuff?
I mean, honestly, I really enjoy your stuff. So it's hard to give you too many pointers. I think you've done a really good job of refining into exactly who you want to be talking to, because that's another piece that I think a lot of people miss is they're, again, trying to be everything for everyone. So then they're alienating their ideal audience and the ones that they really do genuinely want to help because they're trying to kind of water down the content because they feel so nervous around being specific about, oh, I work with women. Oh, I work with this specific industry, whatever it might be. They're like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. But you do. You're very clear about who you are, who you want to talk to, what you want out of the engagement that you're giving. I don't think that there is a lot of just questioning of what you're going to get if you follow your show, if you follow you on social. You're pretty honest.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, I wish more people understood that being authentic does not necessarily mean that it's just natural, right? Like that'll naturally come to you. I think once you develop some skill, then you sound natural. But I think one of the things I really connected with you about, Priya, is you have been someone who has built a career of excellence. Like you've had so many, like, do you mind just sharing with us a little bit your background that's led you to some of these conclusions? Because I think there's a lot of people that are doing social media right now that do not bring the perspective that you're bringing because they haven't done the same kind of work. So can you go ahead and share with us like what that is? Because not all of us are going to do that work, and it's helpful to understand your perspective. Like, where is that coming from?
Sure. And that honestly came from falling into social as kind of a default. It wasn't necessarily what I went out to do. I think anyone, especially not to age myself, but this was not a thing when I started my career. I started my career in journalism and public relations. And so I was a storyteller first and foremost. So I knew the difference between genuine storytelling and what was kind of being fabricated or even being in media interviews and feeling like, oh, that person's just not doing an awesome job at that because they're so uncomfortable. And so when you can get someone to feel really comfortable and be themselves, you get the most value out of it. So I started my career more so focused in the consumer side, which is very, very different, and then shifted and did a 180 into the B2B side, which was honestly a blessing for me because I love the complexity. I like having to have a lot more strategy around what I'm doing. And that is what kind of led me towards what I do, which is really looking at LinkedIn as a business system and as a social ecosystem. And the reason why was that I went in and I was working at a very large corporation and noticing that everything was being done in silos. So social media is one that touches everything. And so if you put it into a silo, it's really only performing maybe 3% of what it can do. As soon as I started breaking down these walls and showing everyone how their voice matters and embracing the people within the organization that had the expertise or were talking directly to the customers or those that were, just genuinely excited about the work that was being done, just your everyday employee. when we started really looking at all of those voices and the contribution that they were providing to the organization, it just exploded their social. And I think that really showed me at the end of the day, as we become more digital, more, kind of connected to our computers, we still love human insight, behaviors. We connect in different ways. We have different expertise that we bring to the table, and it all contributes to the whole. And so that, I think, came from having that public relations perspective and the storytelling perspective. And so coming from that angle and combining it then with data and proof to be able to talk to a decision maker and show them why budget is important, why these things are moving the needle, and the revenue generation that's coming out of it, because that's what they care about. When I can bring it all together, that's where you see kind of the magic happen.
I love that. When I very first started learning about social media, it was basically as a marketing engine, very purely like you post to the internet and then you capture leads. And it was like a very direct response way of teaching what social media is. And what I found in practice is exactly what you're talking about. And even in a relatively much smaller business, not like a big corporation, I was shook at how it affected my client relationships. And I remember going like, wait a second, you already paid me. What could be the possible reason that you would be watching me on social? And then when we expanded and added teams, same thing. The team would chime in their off hours and join the conversation. So you're absolutely right. I mean, social media really did fundamentally change how people engage with brands and individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not limited to these particular teeny weeny tiny little use cases that maybe are traditionally or conventionally taught about it. I love your background
Yeah.
around like public relations, excuse me, and storytelling from a very formal kind of a background, because it means that you get to approach the tool and wield it in a completely different fashion than, for example, someone who is like just staying up to date with the latest button and algorithm changes on a particular platform. Not that
Yeah.
that's not
And that's what
important, it's just they change
yes.
so fast. I mean, it's like you're not going to build anything on that.
They do. And I mean, they all work in tandem. A very important space for the paid side. There's an important space for obviously a brand channel and what they're providing and serving as a resource. But I think that if you just focus on one, that's where I've seen, all of the kind of pieces crumble, because then you're kind of pigeonholing yourself. And that's where, looking at it as this big operating system can really open your eyes. And it doesn't necessarily mean, like you were saying, it's only for big corporations. It can be a tiny team, but a tiny team that has these really amazing people. If you're a team of 3, but each of you have a very different focus within the business, you bring your own expertise, or you're just, connected to different people, that's a huge opportunity to just gain recognition in different spaces and also to make people feel good. I think a lot of the times we forget, especially when you're looking at, let's say, an employee advocacy program. Well, what's the value here? The value is that we're all individuals and none of us are necessarily, unless we're business owners, beholden to a single company. And so everything's a learning opportunity. Everything's a way for us to just grow in our careers. Even if it's at the beginning or at the end, we're always growing and learning. And the only way to kind of showcase that is to lean in. And so every time I have people that kind of see and yield their own power through their voice and can really say, my voice matters, you just all of a sudden are seeing so much more happening around a company that's intangible versus, those hard lines of there's so many companies that are just so picky about what you can and cannot do. You lose all of the realness.
Gosh, yes, I used to work for one of those. They've clearly changed their position since I was there, but at the time, they treated social media as a threat more than anything. So I remember the training as we were onboarding is like, oh, you were an ambassador for the company. The internet is forever, which is true. But it's also like, yeah, I
Within
definitely
reason.
started with a pretty healthy fear of the internet or an
I
unhealthy fear,
understand
as the
that.
case may be.
Yes, yes. When you go into a structure where you feel like you're just being policed all the time, yes, you're going to think twice before pushing that post button.
Yeah. And I'm so curious, like, cat videos. Like what would you say to someone who is worried that their social media is ineffective mainly because of competing with cat videos or other entertainments? Like I think one of the big challenges a lot of businesses face is, honey, we boring, right? So how do you capture that attention without maybe losing the credibility of the brand?
Sure. And I think, there is the kind of focus on, I call it trend chasing. There's the trend chasing of like, oh, that's so cool. I want to be part of that. And sometimes I feel like that can just kind of dilute everything that you're doing, because then it is confusing of saying like, who are you? If we're just like trying to be fun and cool all the time, you're forgetting at the end of the day you're a business around something. So I always say to people who want to do something like that is to really kind of rein it in and say, what is the focus of what you're trying to do? What are you trying to achieve here? Because I think sometimes what we're seeing is just a very tactical approach of kind of chasing this thing or that thing, but not seeing how it connects back to the whole. So for anyone who's trying to compete, sometimes steadiness is its own competition of saying, okay, I'm going to continue on this path, but I'm going to keep kind of highlighting why we're different, what our unique attributes are, why we care about our people. I mean, something so simple as that can actually start cutting through that clutter. And, yes, the cat videos are very cute, but if somebody is intentionally looking for something that is really within your wheelhouse, they're going to find you if you're going to keep saying why.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I think about how the ocean, will wear down, a stone into the pebbles and all that kind of thing, and it's just this repetitive motion, and that's so much of how not just social media but branding in general, it can be so effective simply through the show up, right? And I
Hmm.
think so many people are looking for the quick win, the fast glow up, that they often will lose sight of just the consistency. And, I think the other thing that's really powerful about what you said is that if you have clarity of vision and the mission, there's
Hmm.
emotion attached to that. There's a
Yes.
reason you care so much that you're putting your life force and your risk of owning a business, especially if you're a founder. There's something really there. So, I would encourage and add to what you said, like tap in, man. Like you
Yes.
could have worked for someone else and you could have supported somebody else's version of vision. You could have gotten a job, but you didn't. You decided to found something. You decided to grow something, and
Hmm.
like there is emotion attached to that. So what happened that made you so sad? What happened that made you so mad? What happened that makes you so glad when you see things that are actually working? And you can tap
Hmm.
into those emotions. All of them are attached to stories and narrative that if you can like capture some of that, OM to the goodness. That's actually entertaining
Yes.
stuff. Like that's the thing that we're actually looking for. Yeah. So
And
good.
if you can do it in a good way, I mean, if you're a good storyteller or you can practice, I would say practice storytelling. We're not all natural storytellers. So
Yeah.
practice
Not a
your
natural
story.
storyteller personally, right? Had to
So
learn.
if,
Yeah.
yes, if you can kind of hone that skill, there's just so much, because people do love those personal stories, because we're all unique. We all came to entrepreneurship, if that's what you chose, in a different way. And there's always something behind the scenes that can connect us, or that's kind of that cool element of saying, I got this idea while I was sitting in this meeting, and I was like, "Ugh, another meeting." And I saw all of a sudden this light bulb hit of, oh, that's an opportunity. And then started building my business on the side. Whatever it is, you always have that kind of story that is getting you up every day. It's like that cup of coffee that is that natural cup of coffee that just like, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm focused on this. It's what's fueling you. And if you don't remind yourself sometimes as well by sharing that story, you forget. You're 10, you're 15. Why did I do this? Well, remind yourself by, coming back to those stories that really brought you to where you are today.
So good. Priya, thank you so much for being here. I understand you have a little something for the listener today.
I do. So I have a little kind of cheat sheet for anyone who wants to get active on LinkedIn but just hasn't really started. I always say engagement first. Don't worry about posting, just get active, start kind of feeling it out. And so it's just some simple tips that can really help you understand ways to show up, how often to show up, and just get you started. It's just that little kick in the pants.
I love it. I love it. And how do they get it?
So if you go to my LinkedIn and follow me and send me a quick message, I will send you via DM a little PDF that will have that information in it. And I just want to hear, what, if you did listen to this, what really inspired you from this conversation or maybe made you think differently, because I love a good conversation.
I love that. I'm going to be sliding into your DMs later because I want to sneak a peek at it. All right. Well, Priya, thank you so much for being here today. Really sincerely loved this conversation. It was great.
Yes, thank you, Amanda, and thank you for, bringing this to everyone's attention because I do feel like sometimes we forget. At the end of the day, we might not be wearing our cape, but we have one.
So good. And dear listener, don't forget to follow up with Priya. We'll include her links and details all in the show notes below. And before you go, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And grab the link to the show and send it to 3 of your friends who you wish you saw more of them on social media. You wish they had a little more exposure for their business. And finally, if you've been loving the show, one of the ways that you can let us know is a quick 30-second review. Always really appreciate it because it helps people who are considering our show, especially for the first time, to spend some time with us. So thank you so much in advance for doing that. We're going to be back with another episode very shortly. And until then, make it an amazing day and just do what matters.